Hi everybody, and welcome again to ZCode Sports System. Here we developed automated systems to help you win big. It doesn't matter what sport you're betting on, we've got you covered. We're going to get into some NHL action for March the 17th. Before we do, I want to invite you to join. You'll have access to the VIP club section, and it has all the tools to help you make your picks. Okay, so we're getting down to the final month of the NHL season, and there's still probably 2/3 or 3/4 of the team with legitimate shots at making the playoffs, so every game becomes more important. So we're going to take a look at all 5 games scheduled for March the 17th. The first game is the Buffalo Sabres and the Boston Bruins. See the two teams heading in opposite directions. Boston is burning hot, winners of the last 2 and 3-3 over the last 6, while the Sabres are dead up and they're just 1-5 over the last 6. If you take a look at the over and under, you can see that the teams are trending in games over the line. It's been 8 out of the last 12 have been over. Actually, it's been 7 out of the last 12 over. The score prediction is for Boston by a single goal, 4-3, but the confidence in the prediction is still rather low at only 59%. So we're going to take a look at this as it gets closer to game time for maybe a little bit more confidence in a prediction. And this usually fluctuates quite a bit, so keep an eye on that. On the Power Ranks indicator, you can see that Boston is on the upward trend from +4 to +14, and that is over the course of about the last week. And you can see this stableness of Buffalo, but they're only at +1. Take a look at a couple other things. The Bruins are 19-11-5 at home. The Sabres are only 9-19-3 on the road. There's also a difference in the volatility also, which is what I wanted to show you next. The stability factor, you can see that both teams are pretty stable, pretty consistent regarding their favorite underdog stats, with Boston a bit more consistent at +19 compared to +14. And you can see the general upward trend for both teams throughout the course of the season. In the head-to-head matchup, you can see back in January 28th, it was all Buffalo 7-2. And in December, it was Boston 3-1, both teams winning at home. So right now, the way I'm looking at this one is I think this is going to be the Bruins win at home. I think it's probably going to be relatively easy. Boston by 2 in a game over the line. New Jersey and Columbus. Here's a good matchup here. New Jersey coming in burning hot. Columbus coming in average down. You see over the last 6, it was 3-3 for Columbus. And for New Jersey, they're also 3-3, but they're coming off of 2 straight wins. The over-under, you can see, has been trending over the line, and the score prediction is for Columbus by a 5-2 margin, and the confidence in the prediction is rather high considering how many days out we are at the time of this recording of this video at 70%. Head-to-head matchup back on March the 11th, so just 2 days before, New Jersey won 5-3 at home. Columbus won back in December at home by a 4-2 margin. So both teams winning by 2 goals at home. On the Power Ranks indicator, you can see that Columbus has declined down to +16, and now New Jersey has overtaken them at the moment. They're now at +20. So it's a 19-14-2 record on the road for New Jersey, which is excellent. But then Columbus is one of the best home records in the NHL at 26-4. Another thing to take note is that New Jersey has a +30 and +4 scoring differential edge. The stability factor shows both teams moderately stable but inconsistent throughout the course of the year. You can see a lot of upward and downwardness to these curves here, to these lines, and so not very consistent overall. So take the favorite underdog stats with a grain of salt. In the end, I think this is going to be Columbus. I like Columbus at home, and I'm going to pick them probably to win, but maybe needing overtime to do so. But they are just so good at home, it's hard to pick against them. The Flyers and the Tampa Bay Lightning. The Flyers are dead status, losers of their last 5. Tampa Bay is also on a losing streak of 2 games. They're averaged down 3-3 over their last 6. The Flyers are pretty much out of the playoff race. Tampa Bay is right in the middle of things. The score prediction is for Tampa Bay by a 4-1 score, but you look at the confidence in the prediction, it's still rather low at only 49.7%. The over-under, you can see mostly over the line. In the last 12 games combined between the two teams, Flyers over in 4 of them, and Tampa Bay over in 3 of them. Head-to-head wise, the Flyers actually won the earlier season matchup as a big road underdog. They pulled that one out 2-1. That was way back on November the 7th. On the power ranks indicator, Tampa Bay on the downward trend here. They're still at plus 21. The Flyers are only at plus 2. Take a look at a couple other things. The Flyers are only 11, 18, and 5 on the road. Really poor. Tampa Bay is very solid at home, 23, 8, and 2. There's really very little to indicate that the Flyers can repeat the effort they had back in November. So let's go with the Lightning by 2 goals in that high-scoring game over the line. Calgary and Toronto. Calgary comes in ice cold, up 2-4 over the last 6, coming off of a loss. And Toronto's average status, they are 3-3 over the last 6 and coming off of a win. You can see the streak of as far as over/under goes. 3 out of the last 4 Calgary games have been over the line. Toronto, the last 3 games have all been over the line. The score prediction would be an under the line score, even though the line has not yet been posted, but a 3-2 margin would almost likely be an under the line score, and the confidence in this prediction is rather high at 79%. Head-to-head wise, back in February, it was Toronto by a 6-3 score, and that was the only meeting between the two teams so far this season. Power rank shows Toronto, after a steep decline, back on a slight upward trend at plus 23. Calgary has leveled off for the last few days at plus 15. If we look at the volatility oscillator, you can see the consistency factor, pretty consistent throughout the season. A few little downward motions throughout the season, but mostly upward for both teams, plus 17 for Calgary, plus 12 for Toronto. A couple other things we want to take a look at is that the road record is 500 or near 500 for Calgary, but Toronto is very good at home, 21, 11, and 1, and there's a scoring differential margin edge for Toronto, plus 16 to minus 19. So I like the Maple Leafs in this one in a game over the line. And the last game we want to look at is the Kings and the Minnesota Wild. So we got a Western Conference battle here. The Kings coming in burning hot. Minnesota is average status at the moment. You can see that Minnesota is 3-3 over the last 6. And the Kings are 3-3 over the last 6, but they're coming off of a 3-game winning streak. Notice that the teams are trending on opposite sides of the over-under line. Minnesota under in the last 3, while Los Angeles is over in 5 out of the last 6. So the score prediction of 3-2 in favor of Minnesota with 56% confidence. Take that with a grain of salt at the moment. Again, we were 4 days out of game time, and 56%, barely better than the toss of a coin. On the power ranks, both teams on the upward trend. Los Angeles now is overtaking Minnesota on this scale at plus 24 right now to plus 19. If we look at the stability factor, here's been very inconsistent for right here for the Kings. You see they're at plus 8, but they were as high as plus 10, and this was back in January, so very inconsistent basically over the last couple months. And the same thing can be said for Minnesota. They were plus 14 back in January the 18th, and they are now down to plus 12. So very inconsistent as of late for both teams. I think that it's a combined score of 9-2 this season between the two teams in favor of the Kings. They've dominated the other 2 games, and I don't really think this is going to be much different. I like the trend to continue despite the Kings' poor road record, but I'm going to say no and pass on the over-under bet. So there you have it. Those are the 5 games in the NHL for March the 17th. Happy betting, and we will see you next time.